Okay, so I've been wanting to do this video for a while, or at least I thought of the idea behind this video a long time ago. I've been thinking about making a video out of it for a while. The idea is to question our sort of underlying assumptions of the causes of some of the problems in Middle Eastern countries, especially Muslim countries, because that's kind of what's on everybody's mind lately. Well, I can't say lately. It's been a while now. But the idea is I have to wonder a little bit if people blame Islam and Islamic law, Sharia, if that's how you pronounce it, if they blame those things too much for the problems you see in these regions, or whether these regions are cultural and would exist independent of religion. Now, because atheists all the time will say, well, look at all these terrible things that religion does. Look at all these things that look at all these negative effects that religion has. But I have to question this a little bit, because in the next breath, they're quick to point out that we don't get our morals from religion. Rather, our morals inform the way that we interpret religious texts. The prime example being the fact that morality has changed over time, and it hasn't changed because these scriptures have changed. Morality has changed because society has changed, and as society has changed, people have changed the way that they interpret scripture. So when it's very easy to see that morality is not based in any kind of religious text, but rather morality comes from our social environment and is then imposed upon these different religions and different ideologies. So there's some question to me of, well, okay, so it has very little effect on morality. Does it have a whole lot of effect on in some of these negative ways that people are looking at, or is that mostly cultural? And I thought about it for a long time, and I can't say that I'm sure either way. I can't say, well, you know, it looks like it's obviously this, but I think it's a really interesting question. I want to hear what other people have to say. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with this idea, and that's part of why I wanted to make the video. I think it'll make for interesting conversations. And but when you look at Iraq, for instance, people talk about all this Sunni Shiite religious violence. But at the same time, you have to look at these things in context and realize that this area has had these. It's very tribal. There's been this tribalism for hundreds of years, and most of these sort of honor killings are based on a culture in which revenge for your tribe, based on somebody killing a member of your tribe, you retaliating by killing a member of their tribe, and so forth. These things are cultural, not really religious. That's kind of an independent issue from Islam. That's really an issue that's related to this tribalism. So to me, there's a lot of question about whether the political systems you find in these areas are based on cultural values that would exist independent of an Islamic rulership. And I think it's an interesting question, and I want to hear what other people have to say about it. I don't think that I think we give religion too much credit. I think that these Muslim countries that people are so fond of being afraid of, I think that a lot of these social issues you see are results of poor nations, corrupt governments, various different issues like this, which you see in areas that are not necessarily predominantly Muslim, or that anything like that. So, and I have ideas about some of the things that are happening in Pakistan as well. But so I have some question about whether or not these fanatics would be fanatics of a different kind if they didn't have their Muslim faith to be fanatics in. I think that fanaticism is very dangerous, and it inspires people to do terrible things. And as people have pointed out in many cases, well, there have been atheists who committed terrible acts in sort of a fanatical way, but it wasn't because of their atheism, it was because of a fanaticism. And I understand the difference where you're saying, well, if you're claiming you're doing it in the name of your God, maybe it makes an excuse for these people, but honestly, I think these fanatics would be willing to do this in the name of any cause, and I think there's a certain psychology behind it, and I think certain individuals are much more easily drawn into this kind of dangerous mindset. So I want to hear other people's opinions on whether it's really a Muslim issue or if it's really much more of a cultural issue, because I think that's an interesting question, and there's a lot of arguments for it. Here in the U.S., we have plenty of Muslims, and they are not, for the most part, especially Muslims who are second generation or something like that. They're more assimilated. They're more interwoven into our fabric of society here in the United States. So, and they don't have a lot of these sort of behaviors that people look at and call, or they're sort of, what's the word? They're often characterized as being these Muslim characteristics in these countries that are very dangerous. So there are these moderate Muslims, the same way there's moderate Christians and crazy Christians. It just makes me wonder if it's a matter of the way that you've been socialized rather than the religion you are a part of. Because and if that's the case, then is religion really the scourge that people make it out to be? I mean, I have to say, I personally think that religion is a terrible thing for a few different reasons. Primarily because it elevates the word faith to a position where it's given a positive connotation when essentially it's just a word for willful ignorance, where it's a word for belief in something in the face of factual evidence to the contrary. I think it's disgusting to prize that, to consider that kind of thing a virtue. I think that's one of the worst things that that religion has given to us. But I wonder if too often people assign a lot of these dangerous characteristics to religion. And I don't just mean the Muslim religion. It's what I bring up because, like I say, it's what people are talking about. But the same goes for like the Inquisition. I mean, and people looking at it realize the Inquisition was a political maneuver. I mean, this was politically motivated, in at least from what I've read. And if there's somebody else who's an expert, please correct me. But my understanding is a lot of these things were very political. They had to do with who was making money at the time. Like the destruction of the Templar Order had to do with it was financial for the most part. And you see these kinds of themes over and over again where, sure, maybe religion is being used as an excuse, but it's not the underlying factor. And so I wonder how much religion really informs on history and how much it's really just sort of a veneer, how much it's just sort of a top coating on top of a society that has these problems as sort of underlying endemic problems within the society. And if that's true, we need to look at it this way, because you can't fix a problem unless you can see what the actual problem is. And as long as people are able to say, oh well, it's religion or it's this, people aren't going to stop and take a look at the real problems with society. Because I firmly believe that problems are changeable. We can fix things. We can make the world a better place. And I'm sure that sounds idealistic, I'm sure, but we should at least try. And there's no way to try when we're not willing to appropriately identify the problems that we face. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation if anybody else is interested in it. I want to hear what other people's views on the idea is. Yeah, I will see how it goes.